if you are anxious and you think something's happening in your computer and you don't like it, turn the computer off. Hold down the power key for 4 or 5 seconds. That will turn the computer off. That's the best thing to do if you're anxious. Don't throw it out the window. Don't throw it out the window, because then you're going to have to replace the window. And then when you reboot the computer, 75% of the time it goes back to being normal and everything is fine. If it's not, then you have to try to figure out how to deal with it. But now you shouldn't be so anxious anymore.
Okay. Thanks, Jean.
And the other thing we're going to talk about right now is that there are different levels of anxiety and different things to be anxious about. Like, not everything should make you anxious. And if you learn more about it, it decreases your anxiety. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. Let's see if I can make some sense out of something here. I'm going to share my screen for a second, if that's okay with y'all. I didn't have this set up here because I was going to do it on the other computer, but I can get there quick. So, do you remember how I talk to you over and over and over all the time when we're together about the difference between your browser and your search engine? You remember what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, Ursula, what's the difference?
The browser gets you on there and the search engine helps you find what you want.
That's exactly right. You can't see anything that you're searching for without a browser. A browser is the software that gets you to the internet. So there's a difference between your browser and your search engine, right? Remember when Paul kept bugging me about DuckDuckGo?
Yes.
And we realized that DuckDuckGo is his favorite search engine, but he still has to use it using a browser. Remember?
Yes.
All right. So I want to talk for just a second about the browser. And I don't like this way. And now it won't let me do it the way I want to do it. So there you go. All right. You have settings for security on your browser, right? We've talked about where they are. We'll look at them again. You have some controls there, all right? So it's important to learn, depending on which browser you're using, where your security settings are, like how much spam, all of those kinds of things. And we can talk about that if you're interested. It depends on your browser, all right? There's also a difference between, I think I lost somebody. It's also, there's a difference. Remember how I keep talking about URLs? Remember I talk about how the web address that you put in that address bar at the top? Do you know what I'm talking about, y'all? All right. That's like the street address, right? The IP address is the actual set of numbers that identify the computer. So part of the reason I'm going through all this is because people refer to this stuff, and I know you all, and you listen to people referring to this stuff, but you don't know what all the things mean. So part of what I'm trying to teach here is that you learn the language so it helps you be able to know what people mean when they talk to you.
That I appreciate, Peggy, because I sometimes feel it's a different language.
It is a different language. That's why you feel that way. I mean, it is. It's like learning Greek, or, I mean, it's a totally different language. And part of what has to happen is to get an understanding of what all those words mean.
Right. Thank you.
So you decide in your browser. So what do we got in browsers? Name me some browsers. They're already up there, but tell me what they are.
Google Chrome.
Internet Explorer.
Right.
Internet Explorer.
Correct. And something called Mozilla Firefox.
Safari.
I'm sorry, Kathy?
Oh, yeah.
Safari is what I use.
Safari, if you're on an Apple, either computer or tablet, you will use, you don't have to, right? Remember how we talked about that Chrome or Firefox are apps now that you can have on your Apple device. The default browser for an Apple device is Safari. Everybody's with me?
Yes.
If you are still using Internet Explorer, stop and upgrade to Edge, 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 because Edge is Microsoft's advanced version of Internet Explorer, and it does have some additional security in it. It's a better browser. It's their additional, you know, they've improved it. So staying with Internet Explorer is not necessarily the smartest thing you can do. Does that make sense to you Internet Explorer people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, all right.
Go ahead, Jean.
There are a few websites where, or applications where you have to use Internet Explorer, but they're disappearing very quickly.
They are indeed, and more of them are saying that you can use Edge and that they prefer you use Edge. I had this happen to me recently. I had trouble with Chrome and I went to Edge and I could do everything I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it on Chrome. So it is weird, but the Internet Explorer ones, Jean's right, are going further away. And I would be surprised if any of these folks are doing, well, you never know. You're right, you never know. The recommendation, and these things are not created equal. They're different. Mozilla Firefox, for instance, is a browser that is hugely committed to and spends a lot of time giving you features to protect your security and confidentiality, to keep stuff private. It's the nature of that particular browser. Safari is similar to that because Apple, because it is a smaller universe, fewer people are in Apple computers than Windows computers. So it starts off ahead of the game in terms of being a target for hacking. But they also have a different level of privacy and security. Chrome is the unique one, and it connects with the Google search engine because it's very much into integrating, syncing, and connecting. And I'm going to talk about the search engine in just a second. But they really are different in how they work and what their priorities are. Jean, would you add anything to that?
I would just say that I don't know the exact statistics, but over 70% of the world uses Chrome.
Yep, it's true.
I use it.
It's true, and I love it, but it has its problems lately, and some of those have gotten worse rather than better. But Jean is absolutely right. It is the most popular. Okay. Everybody knows about cookies, right?
Yes.
And more cookies. So Wendy, when you're talking about, you go and you look for something, right?
Right.
And then we'll get to that in a second, because that's when you search, right?
Right.
Okay. So cookies are a different issue than that, because cookies keep track of where you've been and they're used in searches, but basically cookies are what remember things. So it's a code, and it actually remembers where you've been. So when I go, it's part of what makes it possible for your browser to remember your passwords. I know all of you, and I know when it says, would you like Chrome to remember this password? You say yes, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the ways all of that's possible, when you go to a site and it remembers you, one of the ways it remembers you is with cookies. So while cookies are tracking codes, and they do remember where you've been and keep track of where you've been, a lot of people have concern about them from a security perspective. And it's one of those things I talk about all the time, that you're gonna have to make choices about whether convenience matters more to you than security. And you'll make those,
Peggy, they do one other thing too.
okay,
When you go to a website, it takes a while for it to get started. Well, cookies store the information about where you've been on the website, and so it will bring you back to it much faster than if the cookies weren't there.
thank you, Jean, I forgot that, you're absolutely right. So remember, when you talk about, oh no, get rid of all the cookies, I've heard this so much from people, make them all go away, erase them all, delete them all. Remember, they do serve a purpose that is helpful to you. So it's not always that they're evil. All right, is this making sense to you all?
Yes.
And when do you say cookie, are you evil? I mean, how do you know the evil ones from the non?
You ask if it's evil, and if they say, yes, I am evil, then you get out your cookie shooting gun and you shoot them.
I always knew
Sorry.
you had a good sense of humor, Peggy.
I'm sorry, that was my little smart alecky kid.
No,
You
that
know.
was
I
great.
liked it. It was fun.
But you can't eliminate just one thing in the cookies.
Correct. Correct. I don't tell people to eliminate all their cookies.
So it's an all or nothing deal with cookies.
What's happening now is, because of a new law, every website you go to has to ask you if you're okay with cookies. Have you seen that little message that
Yes.
Yes.
often shows up at the bottom, right? And it says, we use cookies on this site. Are you okay with cookies?
Yes.
You have the option of saying, no, I don't want your cookies, right?
And that
And you're
would
going to get
eliminate-
some of what Jean's talking about. Some of what I'm talking about is maneuvering, manipulating, and making your way around the site will be more cumbersome. And when you go back there, they won't have any memory of what you did the last time you were there. If that makes you feel better, you can say no to cookies.
So I usually say no to that, but you're saying it might be more to my benefit that they're not really scary cookies if I say yes.
I always say yes.
So one subject that is related to cookies are notifications. And sometimes we get confused between them. Notifications are, you give the site permission to send you information, whether you want it or not, and it pops up on the screen. Those are called notifications. And that's different from a cookie, which
Right.
simply is keeping track of where you've been. So when you went to Home Depot because you wanted to buy a dishwasher, the next time you go to Home Depot, it's going to show you dishwashers.
Yes.
I'm with Peggy. I don't think it's a good idea to disable cookies. Notifications are a different matter.
And most of you are talking about cookies. Most of you do not set up opportunities for websites to send you things unless you do it inadvertently. I mean, Jean is right. That is a whole different kettle of fish. We talk a lot about notifications when we talk about apps on mobile devices. So we talk a lot about how if you set something to notify you, it's going to notify you as often as it sees fit. A cookie just keeps track. So, Wendy, partly when you search something and then you go back and you see advertisements in the right-hand side for the same thing you just searched for, part of that is the search engine and part of that is the cookies. So there's two pieces to that problem. Our problem is not, I don't consider it a problem, but some people do. There are two reasons that happens. Cookies are one of them. So if you're in, it's like Jean said, if you're in Home Depot and you're looking for dishwashers, which I may be because mine is not working, then I go back someplace and I'm going to get more dishwashers. Everywhere I go, I'll get somebody up in the sidebar telling me about dishwashers. And I'm going to talk about why you get that and when, if you don't like it, how you cannot get it. All right. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
So the next time I talk to Peggy, I'm gonna ask her about how her dishwasher is doing. And that's
Yes.
because she gave me a cookie.
I did indeed. It was a tasty cookie. Okay. You already know that some browsers behave differently.
Jean,
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
uh, I'm just curious. As you know, I do a lot of YouTubing. Do each of the sites that I visit on YouTube, do they also put cookies, or is it just YouTube itself?
You're asking whether the channels that you visit are collecting information about you?
Yeah, Paul and Haunani, your connection is terrible.
Correct.
So I don't believe.
Yeah,
that the
I'm
channel-
sorry. Yes, I am asking.
I don't believe that the channel gets information about you. It's coming
Correct.
from YouTube.
Right. It's just YouTube that does.
Yes.
Actually, remember who makes YouTube, right? YouTube is a
No.
Google product. So
YouTube is
you're
a Google
talking about
product.
the same thing as if you're searching at the Google search engine. I mean, Google owns YouTube. And so
Oh,
the
it is.
phenomena that we're talking about is the same for YouTube, for Google search, for when you're in Chrome and you're going to a website. That's what I mean when I say Google, Chrome, all of those are really into linking and syncing. And they link and sync everything they own, which is how all of that falls together. All right. So my point in this part is just to let you know that there are differences between the browsers. Most people are Chrome, and most of us are Chrome because we're Googleized, and most of us are Googleized. I used to say Appleized, but most of us are Googleized because we like the convenience of having our information synced. And you know what I mean when I say that, right, guys? I've told you this before. If I'm on Chrome here on my computer and I'm on Chrome and then I go downstairs with my iPad and I open my iPad and I open Chrome, everything I did upstairs on the computer is synced to what I'm doing downstairs on Chrome. And it's all synced to my Google account. So it doesn't matter, Gmail, it all. So for me, I'm willing to put up with the cookies and the paying attention to where I am and where I'm going because it provides me convenience. Paul
Peggy,
Richter's
that's-
not with us,
Peggy,
which is probably
That's
a good
only if
thing,
you have
because he would
allowed
be a
for
wreck.
sync.
Go ahead,
when
Gene, I'm
you
sorry.
Signed into Chrome. You don't have to allow it to sync and then it won't.
Yes, that you can stop the syncing. I get that. Or
But
if you're like,
if you have Apple and iCloud, doesn't iCloud sync your things as well?
yes. Safari doesn't keep track the same way, Wendy, of where you've been and where you go. But yes, your data syncs to the cloud.
And again, you have to give Apple permission to do that syncing so that your iPad is going to be similar to your phone. And pictures that you took on the phone will show up on your iPad.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a difference between tracking you and syncing your data. Like I sync everything through Dropbox. That's not the same thing as cookies or tracking where I've been. Okay, does that make sense, Wendy?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a minute about search engines. All right. Search engines basically are using something called crowdsourcing. They basically, over 1 million, 2 billion, billion, thousand people searching for things. They collect data on people searching for things and give you information about what you want to try to find. All right. It's kind of like the old, if you get everybody together, they can give you information. Google, most people use Chrome and most people use Google search. That's where the word Google it came from. And it can't, everybody says Google it now because Google was the most used. And I don't mean, I'm not trying, this is my opinion and it is some other people's opinions. So I'm just being really clear. They do the best search. I mean, they give you information that is the closest to what you're trying to find.
Peggy,
Yes.
that word behind where you said Google prefers because it works best /algorithm. What is
It's
that?
algorithm, Ursula, and that's the basic program that Google uses. And they don't tell you what, none of us really know what the heck that mathematical calculation is. But the way that you put in something you're looking for and they give you the results, it all happens using an algorithm. And a lot of people who pay for advertising on Google really get mad because they can't figure out why some people's stuff comes up and other people's stuff doesn't. But for the consumer, for somebody like me who's searching for something, I have found, and I've used Google, I've used Bing, I've used Paul's DuckDuckGo, and I have found that Google gives me the best results for what I'm looking for. But they each do it a little differently. And this is some material I got from a book that you guys might really like. It's a dude who does cybersecurity and he does a whole deal for older adults. And I'll give a reference at the end.
Okay.
But basically what he talks about is Google is above all else a marketing deal. I mean, that's their number one priority. They're collecting information to be able to attract advertisers, the way they connect it. So Wendy, when you look for a washing machine like me and washing machines show up in the sidebar, that's part of the Google search experience for their advertisers. So all along the sidebar, I get all the people because I looked for one, 2 days ago. So maybe I haven't found one yet. So they provide me with more ideas and information about other ones I can find. Yes, go.
Okay, so if you see in the sidebar, you're looking for the washing machine and you see one you really like, are those sites secure when you go to them, or can they be insecure?
Okay, we need to talk about insecure and secure when you're talking about a website, all right? So if an advertiser puts a site on Google and you click it and go to it, right?
Right.
There are times when you do a gurgle, sorry, my Google search. When you do a Google search, you get a lot of variety of responses, right?
Right.
But what you're getting in the sidebar is an advertiser that pays Google money to advertise on their site. So you're not typically getting, the dark web, let me give you a program that you can connect to and it'll download on your computer. But the minute you connect to any site, Wendy, you immediately stop and look at the site itself. In other words, I don't care how you get to a website, before you do anything with it, you should investigate it, right? So if I got a washing machine in the sidebar or a dishwasher and I really like that dishwasher, and I click on it and I go to this site and it is, you too can have wonderful dishwashers.com, I'm going to have a very different reaction to that website than if it's fisherpaykel.com and it gives me a bunch of dishwashers, or Bosch and it gives me, so to pay attention to where you've gone and what you see. The other thing is you should never have to download anything from a website like that. You're looking at dishwashers, you're looking at whatever the heck you're looking at, And whenever somebody says, download this now, it's usually not what you want to be doing. That's simplistic. But if you're somewhere looking at whether or not you want to buy a dishwasher, just pay attention to where you are. I mean, it's the same thing. If you went shopping and you're in a neighborhood you're not familiar with, and you walk up to a store and you look at it and you walk in and everything looks a little greasy, grimy, and the dudes behind the counter, you know, are smoking and drinking, and you know that you probably want to get out of that store, right? You're doing the same thing when you go online. If you get to a website and you're like, I can't figure out who this is, always just scroll yourself right to the bottom of the site. And 9 times out of 10, you should see something called About Us. And it should tell you who the heck they are, where you are, right? Where did you end up? And so when you're on any website that you've been sent to from any link, you're always on alert as to being careful and paying attention to where you are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jean. Do you want to
Yes,
jump
very
in
good.
there?
Can I add a few things?
Yeah, I figured you'd want to.
It's not just the ads on the right-hand side.
Right.
It's the order of the submissions that they give you that are important too. So.
Right. I just didn't have a search engine
Dishwashers,
up
and the
at
first
moment.
one there is from Home Depot, and the second one is from Walmart, and those companies pay to put to be first or second or third on those responses. And when you click on it, the company then has to pay Google for the privilege of you being referred to them.
Right. So
That's
this
how
is
they
what
make their money.
this is what I was going to show you all. This is a search page for dishwashers.
Okay.
All right. And you can see, all right, let's say I want to do good dishwashers. So if you see, look for the ad. If you see the little ad here, you see what I'm pointing at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means they paid money. Jean's
Yeah.
telling you. That means they paid money and they used words in their advertisement that they believed would work well in Google's algorithm to show up at the top.
Right.
I mean, people spend 100 kajillion billion hours trying to think up what those keywords might be. All right. You know, these people are here because they were paid to be here. Does that mean they're all bad? No, not necessarily. It just means know what you're looking at.
So
Same
it
reason
means some of these might be bad.
companies advertise on the Super Bowl because they want you to see their ad.
Right.
Let me add one other thing. Going to suspicious sites. It's really hard to know sometimes when you're on a suspicious site. That's why it's really important to have a malware assistant helping you. You know, the one that I use is Malwarebytes, but there are others also. And very frequently you will get this is a site that you shouldn't be on. So in addition to being able to use your eyes and ears when you visit that suspicious store, you've kind of got an assistant sitting next to you saying, you really don't want to go into that store. It's very, very important to have. And unfortunately, you got to pay for it, but it's money very well spent.
Yep, that was the next thing on my list. He's right, 100%. All right, let me go back a minute, because the other thing I want you to know is when you start to get down to these bottoms, these are just people who took their chances. So down here, this happens to be a New York Times review of dishwashers. So all I'm saying, our typical inclination, unfortunately, is to click the first thing. And all I'm suggesting you do is pay attention to where they come from, how they got there, who they are, and go down to the bottom and see if there's something else that might come closer to what you really want to know. Like Consumer Reports tells me the best dishwashers.
So if instead of putting dishwashers in my search, I had put reviews of dishwashers.
Right, that's why I said good dishwashers, but you're right, Jean, I tend to do reviews of dishwashers or whatever it is I'm looking for. I'll still get an ad because they paid the most money. But I also get reviews. And they'll tell me, I do this all the time when people ask me, okay, which whatever should I buy to do whatever? I always do a Google search for reviews of what I'm looking for. Okay, and the same thing's true on the side, Wendy. This is where people have also paid to be here. And here you pay directly. Here you take a risk on the logarithm. Here you pay to be there. You put your money down. And Jean's right. If I click on you, then you put some more money down. All right, this dishwasher thing's making me depressed. Go ahead, Jean.
I know how to wash dishes. I'll come wash the dishes.
So they get paid for every click?
Yes, they do. They do.
It's
Google
called
gets,
pay by the click.
we pay by the click. Yep.
Peggy, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Give me some good advice on the dishwasher. Go to Costco and get a Bosch.
What I have right now is a Bosch. And it's 12 years old. And Nancy and I looked at each other this morning and said, I'm thinking that we may be tapping on that home equity line of credit for a new dishwasher. 12 years may take care of it. I don't know. But thank you for the advice. The Bosch is what I would have gotten. All right, let me go back. Can I go back to my PowerPoint for a minute, y'all? Okay, so different search engines collect your data differently. And that doesn't necessarily, the nuances are small and it may not even matter to you, but it's part of why it comes out differently. Like Bing doesn't collect and store, so it doesn't like give it to advertisers. And DuckDuckGo doesn't, I always want to say DuckDuckGoose because I can't help myself. DuckDuckGo doesn't collect anything. Its whole reputation is based on the fact that it doesn't collect any information. And it will not build a profile of you and give advertisers access to your history or what you've looked for. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. All right.
Wow.
Wow, what?
Interesting information.
Oh, Norma's with us. Okay. Hi, Norma.
Hey, I'm sorry I'm
One
late.
more.
That's all right, Norma. Go ahead, Wendy.
I have one more question sort of on this subject, which is if you're on Facebook and you see something you like, is it dangerous to order it through Facebook?
Here's what I would tell you about that. Every time I'm on Facebook and I see something I want, I click on it and I look at what is the company. I cannot tell you how many early on in this process, how many frickin' Chinese things I bought accidentally, okay? That I didn't want from
Yes.
China and that took 100 years to get here and that I never should have bought. Okay, so the first thing I do is I click on it and I look at the company. Because what the company does is it leaves you in Facebook in a site that they created, but you're still inside Facebook. So I write down the name of the company, I leave Facebook, I open Chrome and I search the company. And then I say, that's how I found out the crazy Chinese people. And I said, sorry, I'm not saying all Chinese people are crazy. I'm saying there's a lot of things. Thank you. I know how Nani, I apologize. But my point in that is a lot of stuff we buy that is cheap because we like cheap in this country comes from China. And it is not the quality you think it is when you watch the ads on Facebook. All right. So I pull the name of the company out. I put it in my search engine and I look for it. And if I don't get enough information that way, then I do a reviews of the company. If I don't get enough, I know already I'm in trouble if I'm still not getting enough. I can go to the Better Business Bureau. I can go to the Consumer Protection Agency. But if I've gone that far and I'm still not seeing a lot of information, the odds are that I don't want to buy it from them.
I ordered this wonderful shirt and it arrived months later with no sleeves.
With no
With-
sleeves.
No
Okay.
No sleeves.
Okay, Wendy, I'll remember that one. That's unique. I bought a portable piano that I thought was gonna, handle my heart being so sad I don't have a piano anymore. And it's still in the cupboard.
You can, when you see things on Facebook that, especially if they keep coming back, you can click on the top right and say, I don't want to see stuff like this anymore. And that will stop it.
Well, they count on impulse buying. I mean, I don't know. You didn't know you wanted, you need it. You see it on Facebook and people say, oh, I'll buy it.
It's the same kind of stuff we used to see at 2:00 in the morning on TV.
Right,
You know, and it always
exactly
came
right.
from New Jersey, right?
Exactly.
So if you see it and I thought, and I could be very wrong, that if they said pay through PayPal, that PayPal had already researched them. Is that true? or
No,
not?
no,
Absolutely
PayPal
not.
does not research any company. All PayPal does for you is it means that company, if it's shady particularly, doesn't have any of your information. All they got is your name. They don't have your credit card. They don't have the reason you use PayPal is because it protects that side of your information. But they do not research companies. You're on your own when you decide to buy something. They're like your credit card. Your credit card doesn't research the company. They let you use your credit card wherever you want.
Got it.
Now,
Thank you.
The one thing I will say is legitimate, regular, identifiable companies advertise on Facebook. They're trying to take advantage of the same thing. So just because it's on Facebook doesn't mean it's a bad thing or not a quality product or not something you want to buy. It does mean that you've got to pay more attention about where the company is.
Okay.
And the Chinese thing matters. The products from China are frequently not identified as such. And it's not just China, it's other international products. And you think you're buying something that you're going to get with the same alacrity that you're used to getting things. And they're not very clear about the fact that you're not.
Buy it from Amazon.
That's my opinion, but I'm glad Tony's not here because he'd have a fit then. I'm constantly managing these dudes. Okay.
I have a search engine question, please.
Okay.
My computer and my cell phone have both started telling me the search engine cannot be found. So what's going on with my Google search engine?
Let me back you up a step, Pat.
I was
Are
in
you
your
saying-
email. I
wait a
was in
minute.
your email and I was trying to go from there to the lifespan page. And I was on my telephone in the other room and it tells me that my search engine can't be found. So I can't attempt to get to that lifespan website.
How are you trying to get to the Lifespan website? Through the link in my email?
Yes. And then I came back in to my computer in the other room and tried to get into the website and it said that my search engine could not be found. So I had a really hard time even getting up to, I finally did just type in yours, Peggy's Lifespan, and got in today to do this, but I was late doing it because I couldn't get to you where I was located at the time.
Well, mine did that today too. It said Safari cannot be found. So then I had to go through the regular website. It was a link on the link that you sent us and click it said click website, and it clicked website, and it
Yeah.
said Safari cannot be found, so I had to go to the regular. So it could have been the same thing, something in your email.
Okay.
I had that happen too.
That happens every time lately when I try something, so I know something's not going as it should
Okay, can I
from my
stop?
emails.
I know I'm going down a little tiny bit of a pig trail here, but so what you click in the email is, I mean,
A URL.
yeah, honey, I'm trying to figure out what URL in that email they're clicking.
But it just had the website
It-
in
It's,
green or
it
something,
said website.
a different color, said
It said
website.
website. Yeah,
In your email, it said website, and I think it was a green shaded. And I just clicked on that, expecting it to take me directly there. And it said,
Broken link.
yeah,
yeah,
yes. That's happened to me too.
If you don't mind, just hang in with me 30 seconds.
but I did it from my phone and my laptop. And both of them gave me the same message. It could not find you. It could not find the website because
Right.
my search engine couldn't be located.
I thought it was because I was out of town at first.
No, I've done it sitting right here every time.
Well, if you clicked on a link that said click here to register, no,
No, no,
No, it
It
wasn't
said
that.
website.
yeah, there,
It was your website.
okay. I'll check it out. Always check it out. I never say never. My most recent email didn't include a link to the website.
Correct.
Okay,
I
that's
have
what
it
I was
open
on.
now.
So that's why I'm confused, but I will check it out there because I didn't include any links because I always figure that you just go to lifespanatlanta.org and the calendar's there. And there you go. Everything we're doing is on it.
What did she click on it on your?
I don't know. I think it was a different email. I think it was a previous email, but I will go back and check.
Not the one from yesterday.
It's not the one from yesterday because I didn't say the website anywhere.
Correct.
But the point is, I'm sorry, Beth, I'm sorry.
Sounds to me like what happens sometimes when my Wi-Fi has dropped.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering myself
Yeah,
because,
that's what I thought initially, but I came straight into I'm sitting by my Wi-Fi system, my computer, and it still wouldn't let me from that email.
yeah.
I
I
was able to.
Sounds like a broken link. When you type a website that you're going to, www. The search engine isn't involved at all. The browser takes you to that. If it can't find it, it'll tell you I can't find it. Now
that's
if
why
you
I'm
type it-
saying your search engine can't be found doesn't make sense to me.
If it can't find anything, then it goes to the search engine to look for something similar or whatever. If I haven't heard of this, but if your search engine is somehow not work, the first thing to do is to renew your browser. Close the browser, close Chrome, open it again and try again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks.
that is the best thing to do for sure. But the other thing I'm going to tell you, and we've had this conversation about 50 million kajillion billion times, just put lifespanatlanta.org in the address bar and go there.
Okay.
It's always
That's
there.
what
And
I
if you-
do.
If,
I do it every time. I just go to the,
and if you've typed it recently, it will just show up and you can pick it.
Okay.
Okay, and then you don't
Okay.
have to worry. It makes it easier than, it's part of why I've moved to the calendar because I'm trying to get out of the whole email crap because there's always an issue.
Yeah.
I love the calendar.
I'm glad. All right,
Oh,
How
it's
many-
wonderful.
I wanted to get to that calendar, so.
there you go. You just, right now, the spring break calendar, which is what we're in,
Right.
right now, that's on the front. By the end of this week, there'll be a front page with little icons. One of them will be the spring break calendar, and one of them will be the spring class session that starts in April.
Okay.
Because starting in April, different links, different process, all right? But the same calendar, same concept. All right, is everybody with me?
Yes.
All right, how many of you heard of something called the dark web?
I have.
Heard of
Have
it.
you always wondered what the
Yeah.
dark web is?
Yeah,
Yes.
what is it?
Yeah, me too. So I'll read you what they say. Joke. Okay. Most of the things that are on the web are indexed, right? I mean, they show up in normal searches like Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whatever. The dark web ain't no index. It doesn't show up. It doesn't get searched. You got to know where you're going to get there. And it is the place where most tools and techniques for hacking and for other kinds of security, people who break securities, it's where they do their work and where they sell the stuff that they steal. I'm trying to make this as simple as I can, but you see what I mean? So it's a place where they get, like, if they manage to get a whole bunch of credit cards, right? They're going to go there and sell those credit cards. And that's where the information gets traded for monies or Bitcoin or whatever.
But we wouldn't accidentally get in there.
No, you wouldn't accidentally get in there, Bobby. It's just another example of me saying, if you hear words, if what we're suggesting is that this is a language, when you hear words, it's important to know what they mean. Because the more knowledge you have about the meaning of the words, the less you're going to have that anxiety thing we were talking about. Because then you know what we're talking about.
Words
Let
matter.
me, you can compare it to black stars. You know, black stars are stars that don't exhibit, there's no light coming out, but it sure is there.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, Gene.
I don't know how many people remember the days of rationing. You know, you go into a store and buy eggs for 20 cents an egg, but somebody outside was selling one for $2.
That's right.
That was a black market. So that's what the black web is. It's something that's working on the side that most of us can't see, but it's sure there. And let me tell you, you have no business trying to find it.
Okay.
No, you want nothing to do with it, but understanding what it is and what it means is important so that you know when you hear the words what we're talking about.
So you can't trip and fall in it.
No falling in, no accidentally falling in.
When you do a credit search, doesn't the black web is something you search too if there's any?
No. You don't search the dark web. That's what I'm trying to say is it's not indexed in the search engines you use. It is not in your realm of reality.
You don't want it, don't look for it.
There are sites that collect names or web or email addresses that have been hacked, that have been sold, and they will tell you, well, you were on that list, you ought to change that password or whatever. But you can't get into the black web. You really have to work hard to get into it.
Yeah,
Go-
that's what
Don't go looking for trouble.
you don't want to know. Okay, I want to talk briefly about email encryption. I know it sounds crazy, but some of you have had issues when you go between Android and Apple on email. The two operating systems encrypt email differently. This is an interesting aha that I found that I didn't really know, but I'm not sure it's true anymore. So I'm curious. Allegedly, Apple encrypts its email differently. So Apple does an entirely different email encryption than Android or a Windows phone, right? So we're talking about messaging, right? Texting. So when Haunani, who has an iPhone, texts me, I have an Android. So the bubbles are different colors. So according to this, Apple's bubbles on your Apple phone are blue.
Right.
Android users can text you, but my bubbles will be green.
Right.
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 Now, on my Android phone, it's the opposite. My bubbles are blue and your bubbles are green. The point of all this, or I said it the other way, but the point of all this is just know that sometimes you're going to get hiccups, because I've had some of you say to me, like Pat will text me and I'll say, what, I didn't get a text. And then I go and I look in my email and I have this weird, funny text that has come through as an email into my email instead of into a text on my phone. So that encryption sometimes gets whopper-jawed. Don't get all kaflimped. It's not that somebody's attacking you or hacking you, or it's just those encryptions sometimes just don't pass the way we want them to. Don't get kaflimped about it, is all I'm saying. And watch the bubbles. I thought that was interesting. All right, are you ready? I want to talk scams. The last things I want to talk about are scams.
Hey, Pat?
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, did you set up that encryption, or was that automatic between
No,
that's
it's
done
automatic. I didn't do anything. No.
for? Okay.
No, Apple automatically sends its text messages and so you know they're encrypted the way Apple encrypts, and no one can read them unless you give them permission. Apple can't see them. No one can see them. Mine are not encrypted the same way, so they come as a different color. It's just an Apple thing. All right, I want to talk three things. I want to talk some scams. I want to talk about some, actually, I want to talk about several scams and passwords. All right, are you ready?
Ready.
You'll hang in with me for a minute?
Right.
All right, I want to talk about spoofing. So spoofing is when you get an unknown communication from someone you know, but it's not really them.
I get a lot of them.
Okay. It can be an email. It can be a phone call. It can also spoof a website. It can spoof a website address and an IP address. So you get some form of communication and you think it's somebody you know. And so you initially assume you should respond to whatever it is they're asking you to do, right? Because you know them.
Right.
I have been getting, and recently this has been coming in phone calls, which I find fascinating. I get probably 3 phone calls a week from the Amazon order department. Of course, part of it is they know how much I order from Amazon probably. But I get 3 phone calls a week and they all say, we've noticed Amazon order AM3029 for $1,000 that you have ordered a new iPhone on your Amazon account.
Right.
You need to come, you need to click whatever number they tell me to confirm this order. Now your inclination is to go, I didn't order any damn iPhone and I don't want you charging $1,000 on my account, right? Wouldn't that be your natural?
Yes, but I don't do it.
But what you do is you hang up the phone, you open your Google search engine, your Chrome browser, you go to Amazon, you go to your account, and funny thing, there is no $1,000 charge for a new iPhone. It's the way of trying to get you to believe there's a crisis, It's going to cost you $1,000. You need to do something about it right now. You click the button, the number they tell you, you go in and suddenly they want to get into your Amazon account to be able to delete the order for you. And the next thing you know, they have your Amazon account.
But Peggy, don't they say, you know, Amazon, iOS, none of them will ever call us.
That's true, Ursula. I get that. We tell you that all the time. We say the IRS will never call you. We say but when they do, okay.
But Peggy, they were so polite.
Exactly. Thank you, Jean. That's exactly right. Or they get you to panic, because what how Nani got one of these when she said to me, they're going to cancel my entire Google account. And I said, how Nani? Stop a minute and think, would Google really threaten to cancel your whole account? No. Why would they do that?
What I've done with the credit card thing is call the number on my credit card. And, you know, and obviously it won't be there, you know, when I get a thing saying they've charged that much, because I use my Discover card on Amazon, and I got one just the other day saying they had called all this, and I knew that it wasn't true because they said it was on my Visa card, which I hadn't used in a long time. But if I have a question, I call my the number on the credit card, not the number they tell me to click.
Yeah, and I hang up the phone before I do anything, Bobby. I hang up the phone and then I go to Amazon.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get across to y'all is you all feel very smart right now. You feel very superior. I hear it in your voices.
Mhm.
I have been caught. I have handed over money. People, what they do is I had Apple do that. It wasn't Apple, obviously. I had hackers call me incessantly. I was getting a phone call from them about every 5 minutes. And
Wow.
they kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And I kept hanging up and they kept at it. And finally I answered one because I was tired. I was stressed. I was pissed about getting a phone call every 5 minutes. I was scared. I was sure it had to be something or they wouldn't be calling me every 5 minutes. I mean, the lovely Apple customer service lady said to Nancy and I, ma'am, Apple will never call you. Ma'am, Apple doesn't need your money. I get all that when it's over and I'm calm and I'm rational and I know better. Okay.
Peggy.
It seems very logical then. The
Peggy.
problem is they're good at this.
Peggy,
Yes.
turn off your phone.
Yes. I could do that. Again, Jean, that's all very logical. It's very logical. When you're in the middle of it, when there's a whole huge bunch of stuff going on, when, you know, you would really like to just retire and you're not, in that moment, if it happens to you, you have a vulnerability. All I'm trying to get you to understand is it seems when you hear about people going through this and making this mistake, we frequently are very pejorative about them. You know, we kind of go, oh, for God's sake, how could they have fallen for that? What's the matter with them? I said, well, and I'm here to tell you, I'm one. In the middle of it, it seems logical.
Well, you know, Clark Howard got scammed like that recently. I figured if they can get Clark Howard, they can get anybody.
That's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm only saying spoofing is big right now. Gene will tell you they've been calling and people have been letting them into their computers, right?
4 cases in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Not my customers, people who are in trouble and are trying to get help. And one of them refused to admit that they let anybody into their computer. I mean, it was immaculate conception.
I love it. Well, I'm not that bad, at least. All right, I want to talk about some other things that they're really into right now. All right. I know you think that everything is technical, but dumpster diving is still a problem. If you throw stuff away and it has identifying information on it and you don't shred it or you don't cut it into smithereens, you're vulnerable. They still do dive into trash bins. So just so you know, pay attention to the non-technical side at the same time you're paying attention to the technical side.
Peggy, the same thing is true of old computers.
Yep.
I have in the other room here 3 hard drives that I took out of computers. They need to be destroyed. Your whole life is on them.
So if you're recycling a computer, call Jean.
That's good to know, Gene, because I'm going to send you about 4 of them. Did
Well,
you hear me, Gene?
I hear.
What I would like to know, Gene, is I would like to get those things. Is there a way to get the hard drive out?
Yes. Yes, on a desktop or a tower, it's much easier, but a laptop, you can open up and get take the hard drive out physically. You can also, there are special programs that will wipe the hard drive, but it's much easier to take it out and destroy it. That way you know for sure that it's, you can either use a mechanical device, a hammer, or you can use a very strong magnet that will demagnetize the hard drive.
If you were going to donate a laptop to some entity like a church or Scouts or something, and you wanted to, do you have a recommendation as to what program to use for wiping?
Yeah, I have several that I use, but just realize that when you delete a file on your computer, you're not deleting the whole file. You're just deleting the computer's ability to know which sectors make up that file. And there are ways of putting those sectors back together again. So, yeah, I have programs that will delete things, but my approach is to take the hard drive out and not to include it with the hard drives are cheap. You can buy a hard drive for $50 and let the Boy Scouts or whomever it is you're donating it to put in their own hard drive. Laptops are
Thank
a little
you.
complicated to open. I can help people with that.
Yeah, they are harder to open. That's my problem. But okay, I'm just going to go through these quick because they're comparable, they're similar, and then we're going to talk passwords, and then we're going to be done. All right. So phishing is when you send an email, typically, but not always, just email, where you're trying to convince somebody to give you information. It is big in offices. It's fascinating. When I teach at Georgia State, they require that I have to take a cybersecurity class the start of every semester, where they make me go through all the things. And the one they push constantly is phishing and spear phishing, because it's so easy to impersonate an identity that seems legitimate and to get you to give up your information. And the classic example they love to use is it's from the HR department, and they're going to give you your your recent bonus and you need to log in, and it looks like your HR department, and it looks like you're logging in there, but in reality, you're logging in somewhere else and you're giving them the information. So the 3 things they say, and I say this to my people constantly: stop. Before you give anybody information about how to access anything, personal to you, first stop and say, would this entity ask for this in this way? And then go up and look at that email address. If it's an email, do you know, I say this to y'all all the time. Click up where the email address actually is. Okay. And if you click up where the email address is, it'll expose the actual address rather than the nickname they've given it. Like they've given it a nickname that looks legit. And if you click on it, you expose the actual email address. And often it doesn't look anything like it should. It's a bunch of crazy letters, or they've spelled Amazon, or they have, I mean, if you look carefully, you can frequently tell right then that this is not from anybody you should be sharing your information with. Plus, I don't know of an HR department that is going to send you an email and ask you to log in through the email. They're going to give you a secure, when I go to my stuff at Georgia State and I log into the HR stuff, I got to go into a secure site and I have to verify myself 3 times before I can get in and look at that information. People are not going to ask you for that, legitimate people. And then if you still see it, pick up the phone and verify. Don't just do it, ask. Spear phishing is even worse, and this happened to Hanani, because that's when they use somebody you know, and they love to use information after people die. They pay attention to obits and they follow until they can get information, and they use dead people all the time. And they act like the dead people are emailing you. And for people who really care about the deceased person and they see an email from them, their initial reaction is, oh my God, there's some, you know, there must be something weird in there. It must be something left, and there must be something they needed me to do. And they don't, you just react emotionally. It's a very common trick. When they want to get your passwords, and we're going to talk about passwords in a minute, they do 2 things. Well, they do a lot of things, but there are 2 kinds of attacks that they use. So once they get in, let's just say you say, okay, I'll go do whatever. And suddenly they've managed to hack their way into your computer, and they want to know all those passwords. And so they use 2 things. They use something called a dictionary attack. So if you've used any words, any normal, regular, ordinary words in your password, they go through every word in the dictionary until they get the right one. Brute force means they just keep doing, you know how you can watch on all the CSI shows, you know, all the crime shows on TV that aren't really how it works, where they just sit there and they roll through a series of numbers until they finally get the one that is the password to get in, or they finally get the combination of things. The longer your password, the longer it takes them to break your password using that methodology. We're going to talk more about other ways to protect your passwords, and ransomware you've read about, where the software comes into your computer, infects your computer, and holds all your data hostage till you pay somebody a bunch of money. They did this to hospitals recently, particularly smaller or medium-sized ones that don't have the resources to have major cybersecurity protection. And so they're vulnerable because they need that data. And so they end up paying the money.
But it happens to individuals too.
It does indeed. It does indeed. All right. Any questions about any of that? In other words, don't assume. My daddy always used to say to me, you know what assuming does, right? You know, to assume makes an ass out of you and me. So
Right.
I'm always really, that's always in the back of my mind, except when I'm vulnerable and tired and I don't pay attention.
Peggy, I would add the best thing to do if something comes to you that is uncertain, my advice is ignore it. Just ignore it. if it's something that's real, they're going to get back to you in some other way. So the best thing to do is delete the emails, shut the phone, and see if it comes back in some fashion or other to see if it's legitimate.
I have one that keeps coming back. We'll wait like a month or so, but it's from a good friend. And it always says, I should have sent you this photo before. And I'm usually in touch with this person a lot, and that just didn't sound like her. So I called her and said, did you send me this? She said, no.
So opening an attachment can be the kiss of death.
Exactly. And that was my next thing, Wendy. If you don't know, nobody is going to, what they frequently do when they've managed to capture somebody's email list is they send out a blanket email to everyone on the list. And usually it's something like, wow, I thought you'd be interested in this information. Click here. Or here's a really cool thing I thought you'd like. Click here. And it's not anything you care about, want. In fact, it will invariably download something into your computer that will infect it. Gene is telling you God's truth. Delete it, ignore it. If you get that, and just keep doing it, because Wendy, obviously somebody got her name and email address from some email harvesting event. And they're just running this, and they run it every month or so to see if they'll pick up anybody else. Delete it, ignore it. Nobody I know, nobody I care about that matters in my life would ever send me something in an email that was only a link. They'd never do it. Or only a photo. The people I know and love talk about as much as I do. So it would never happen. They would have to tell me a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you just stop a minute and think about it, you know it's not from them. Delete it and let it go.
It seems to me too, that kind of stuff, where somebody has stolen somebody's address book or something, that comes into my junk mail, where if I actually get something from that person, it comes into my regular inbox.
Sometimes, Bobby, what's your email?
What's my email? Hotmail?
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that. I'm just going to tell you that, knowing Hotmail as I do, I would not count on them as a great spam and malware filter. It may have happened that way occasionally because they've picked up something in the link, but I wouldn't count on it every time.
I have a Hotmail address as my second address, and I'm getting rid of it because it's 3/4 spam right now.
Right. Hotmail's really bad. So I was surprised to hear Bobby say that, because I tell everybody I know to get off of Hotmail.
Yeah.
So good, Bobby. Enjoy it, but be careful.
Yeah, I get a lot of junk mail too. I just, but a lot of stuff, I'm having problems right now. People will like Lifespan. I would like to have that stuff come into my inbox, and no matter what I do, it still comes into my junk mail.
No, mine does too. And that's a problem. That's part of why, again, not to beat a dead horse, but that is part of why I went back to the calendar. Because part of what's happening is when I send emails through a marketing email program, which is what I have to do because there's so many of us, there are tags in that email that help me know you got it. But it also means that email programs recognize it as email marketing. So what they do is they automatically ship it over to your spam folder or your junk folder, depending on the email you have. And so what I was getting was people calling me constantly, wanting to know what happened to the email that I sent, because they were trying to find it, and it was constantly going into their spam or their junk or their whatever. So it is part of why I went to the calendar. I send my own marketing emails, and into my own email, I'm the one sending it. And into my own email, it puts it in my junk folder. And I'm like, and I have gone into the spam filter. I've marked it as good. I've done everything Microsoft tells me to do. It's still in there. So it's why I went to the calendar, because emails are getting, those spam filters are getting higher and higher, and it creates issues if you're trying to get stuff to people. Last thing I want to talk about, because I know I'm at my end here and I don't want to make your eyes glaze over any worse than they already are. I want to talk a little bit about passwords. You know, they always tell you, and Clark Howard, Bobby and I talk about Clark Howard all the time, because he always talks about make them long, never use the same password twice for 2 different accounts. Always don't use real words. Don't, you know, and I get all that. I really do. I get that that's the safest thing to do. I also know most of you, and you don't do that. And you don't do that because you can't frickin' remember it. And you write it down in a little book, and then you can't find the damn little book. You know, I keep some of your passwords, those of you I work with regularly, so that when you call me up, I can give it to you. Okay. So here's 2 things I want to say. Jean has been bugging me for a long time to get a password manager. I have gotten to the point where I think he's right. And I probably will do that. And I'm going to ask him to talk about why in a second. But if, once you hear him talk, if you're convinced you're not willing to do that because of whatever security anxiety you have, then at least think about creating passwords that are sentences. For instance, protect my computer for me at Apple. Okay, so then what I do is I use the first letters. All right, so I know the sentence, so it gives me something I can remember. I change the particular thing I'm writing the password for, so it's always different. And it's not words that people can guess. That's the compromise. A tech guy told me that once. But what would be a better solution is to actually break down and get a password manager. The 3 popular are Dashlane, LastPass, and 1Password. Jean, you use Dashlane, don't you?
Yes.
Why don't you tell them about it?
Passwords are the bane of my existence.
Jean, how do you spell that dash? I just got the dash part.
Dashlane, Dashlane.
And I'll have all this up on the page, Wendy, too.
Oh, thank you.
I will help people with their computers, and I'll say, okay, we have to log on to Chrome, and I say, what's your password? They said, I don't have a password. Well, yes, you do.
Yep.
And I can't make it up. You know, there are all kinds of ways of getting security. I like to say that the best way to have a secure house is to build a house with no windows and no doors. Then it's very secure, except then you can't get in or out.
Right. Yep, and I say regularly, if you want to be 100% secure, just don't do anything with technology.
Well, so with a password manager, you get a master password, and you only have to remember that one password. And the password manager develops passwords for you, crazy combinations of letters and numbers with all the requisite capitals and little letters and exclamation points and whatever. And it keeps those encrypted on your computer or maybe in the cloud if you use it on multiple devices. And so the only thing you have to remember is the master password. And you have to renew it every once in a while. every 2 weeks or whatever their particular approach is. Dashlane is free if you have less than 50 passwords and you only use it on one device. And for most of us, that's plenty. And we tend to do our business either on a phone or on a computer, but not on both of them. If you want to work on more than one device, then you have to pay, I think it's $70 or $80 a year. And when you go to a website where you're setting up an account, it will invoke itself and you'll say, create a password for me, and it creates a password and remembers it for you. So it's that little black book, but
Yep.
it's not a black book.
Yep.
It's stored on your computer. Now, Chrome does a similar thing for you. It will remember passwords for you, and it's pretty secure. And that's a different way of handling it, where you don't have a separate password manager.
Right.
The difference is that the Dashlane will create the password for you. Chrome simply remembers your password.
Right.
Now, the other concept that's around there is double whatever it's called, double something, where in addition to having to give a password, you get a text
Double
message.
opt-in. Yeah.
Double authentication.
Thank you. Two-step, Gene.
Yeah.
Two-step verification.
Two-step identification.
Yep.
So in addition to putting in the password, your bank will send you a text message. Some places Medicare requires it.
Right.
And Medicare requires you to change your password every 3 months. It's bad enough that you have to remember what your password is. You have to and you can't use the one that you used before. So, you got all these wonderful security people out there that are only concerned about their website, and they're not concerned about us as users. You know what the most used password is in the world?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Password.
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 One after that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One after that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, God.
There are approaches coming to deal with security in a different way. In some cases, it means a dongle of some kind or other that you insert into your computer, and it takes care of it. I'm afraid these are problems that are going to be with us for some time. I find those little black books or pieces of paper or in all kinds of places. Some people say, oh, mine is very secure. I have all my passwords on a note on my iPhone. Good luck.
Jane, I have a question.
Sure.
With something like Dashlane, so you just have to remember the first password.
The master password.
The master password. So in order to, I'm making sure I have all my records set up in case something happens to me. So I could give my brother the master password and then he could get into all of my accounts, right?
And you can also with Dashlane actually print out all of your passwords on a spreadsheet like form.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And keep it in your safety deposit box or give it to your brother or whomever. I'm not sure if Dashlane has I know that Chrome has if you don't use your account for 2 months, you've set up somebody else that they will give access to your account. I don't know that Dashlane has a similar, I'd have to check.
The other thing I would say to you, Pat, were you going to ask something? I saw you start.
Go ahead. It wasn't that
Okay.
relevant.
The other thing I would say to you is a lot of you say you really only do it on one thing, but I would encourage you to go ahead and buy Dashlane, and because you will use more than one device anymore, you're all using multiple devices. You just are. And
Right, I'm using 3.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Linda,
people ask, are your passwords secure if it's actually in the cloud? And, you know, that's the basis of their business, so it's pretty secure. Although I have to tell you, with enough money and resource and time, anybody can break into anything.
Yeah.
But they're usually government entities or whatever.
Yeah, they're
People
really
are
not
very
all that
concerned.
interested in us.
Yeah, people are very concerned about their financial stuff, their banks, and those are pretty secure. So if somebody gets into my Amazon account, so they can see what I bought, and I assume that everything that I do and is available. You know, I used to have security on a car that I had for 12 years. The security was a sticker on the window that said, "This car is secured." I was just trying to get the guy who was breaking into the car to go to a different car, because anybody can break into a car.
Yeah.
And if they can't break into it, they can take the whole car. So you can get paranoid about these things, or you can try to work in some reasonable fashion. I have to tell you, very few of my customers use a password manager. And 9 out of 10 at some point or other, you know, have to resort to change my password because they don't know what the password was that they had.
Yeah.
I don't know the other ones, but I can, I think Dashlane is a very good product.
Thank you.
But if you already have passwords for many different accounts, if you use Dashlane, they're going to change them?
No. You can use them and it will record what they are. It'll give you the option of recording it. As soon as
Okay.
you sign in, it will say, "Would you like Dashlane to save it for you?"
Oh, okay.
So they will save what you use, Kathy, or you can ask them to make one.
Okay. Yeah, because I have all different millions of passwords and
so do
that are
I.
made up, you know, and I'd hate to have to lose all that.
Yeah, yeah. If I ever went, and I've been using Google, the only issue you've got to always, it's like a master password for Google is your Google account. And you will never get into your passwords on Google unless you know your Google account password. That one they won't help you with.
Which is your Gmail password.
Right.
Anything dealing with Google, it's your Gmail account. That's the way it works.
Yeah,
Same
the
thing
problem.
with Apple,
Right.
the iCloud.
Yep. The only problem we all have is we let them remember it. And you write it down in your book and you have your little book and then you go back and you go, let's see now, which page was that? So the question is, if it's working for you, stay with it. Nobody's saying you should give it up, but make sure that you're doing something that's secure. Because the ones I make up aren't particularly impressive. I mean, they're okay. They're at least, you know, protect Susie from Sam at Apple iPad or something. And then I just use the front letters, but it's still not going to win any prizes in the cybersecurity department.
So I can tell you it's children's names, it's years of birth, it's...
Yeah, it's crazy. Were you going to say something, Pat?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble lately when I have to change one. They're not accepting my password. You know, I haven't been in it for 2 or 3 months or whatever. But, you know, people like that I depend on, like American Express, I charge everything to them because I get paid when I spend money through them. And I like those cards coming in, giving me options to buy other things. But they never remember, you know, it's not, you didn't use it right, or you did something wrong. And I can spend hours with them and Bank of America, same way, trying to get back into the damned account, you know? And I have been so frustrated for 2 or 3 days straight over one particular thing that I'll just be ready to scream. And I'm tired of having to deal with that. So I'm thinking seriously about doing what Jean's suggesting. Because I too have to leave stuff for my brother, and I'm trying to get all that stuff together too, give to him. So he knows how to get to my stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We'll talk about it, Pat. I can help you do that.
Okay.
You know, there are books you can get, they're like workbooks that you can get, where you can list everything. Uh-oh.
No, go.
Just, I have that for when I pass away, you know, where is my insurance? Where is this? Where is that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got one of those. Mine's entitled, "So Now I'm Dead. What the hell's next?"
Bye, Ursula.
Bye.
Listen, we already did the My Obit kit lady came and did a seminar for us. Maybe I should bring her back. She was pretty good. All right. Did that help you guys?
Yes.
It sure
Yeah.
did. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean.
I don't know if you can see.
Okay, hold on.
Critical information.
That's mine.
Does everybody know? Everybody knows where it is.
Everyone knows where it is.
Everybody has a system.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Jean, thank you, my friend. You were wonderful. I appreciated having you.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Jean. We all need to get you on retainer. I intend to, and I don't know why we all haven't already.
Beth is sitting there very quiet. Beth and I are good friends.
Jean saved me from total disaster. So I'm a fan.
I'm even a bigger friend with her husband.
Yeah.
Do you ever get phone calls when you're driving and it's unknown caller and you just I push delete or, hang up or whatever? Don't answer?
I didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I said, when you're driving, I get all of a sudden a call comes through to answer. And I look at the number on this and it's somebody I don't know, so I just don't answer it. But
No.
As I said before, if somebody really wants to get to you, they're going to get to you again. You don't have to. I have. If a suspicious number calls, I have a way of having it checked. They screen the calls for me. Again, that's a service from Google.
Yes, just don't answer, Kathy.
That's what I do. I just hang
Just
up.
hit the hang up. You don't.
I push the don't answer button.
Yeah, and if they want you, Jean's right. They'll find you. Trust me.
Right.
Well, if they don't leave a voicemail, then it's somebody that, they didn't care to leave you a voicemail, then
Yep.
you don't need to talk to them anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I never answer the phone if I don't know the number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, y'all.
Okay. Take a break.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jean.
Thanks again.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
buddy. Keep me posted, okay?
Thank you.
Jean? Keep me posted, okay?
Sure.
All right. Y'all take care.
Yeah.
Okay, we will. You take a break.
I am.
Okay.
Take
We'll
care,
see
y'all.
you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Take care of yourself, Patricia.
Thank you. Will do.
All right, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.